Are you a small business selling on Amazon, wondering what strategy will take you to the next level? Today, I'll dive into Amazon FBA and FBM, the pros and cons of each, so you can decide which fulfillment method is better for your business. So let's first define what is FBA and what is FBM. So FBA stands for Fulfilled by Amazon. What this means is that you are taking products, you are shipping it to one of Amazon's warehouses, and they are the ones that are then fulfilling the orders that come through on your seller account. If you're using FBM, that stands for Fulfilled by Merchant. This means that you or a third-party logistics provider is then taking the orders and actually shipping it out yourselves to the customers from your orders on Amazon. Now, I'm going to share the ins and outs of each and also some advantages and drawbacks to each of these fulfillment methods so that you can have, at the end of this video, a clearer picture on which method is going to be best for your strategy for your brand on Amazon. And since no two businesses are alike, I think that this really is going to help kind of lay a good groundwork for you to decide what's going to be best for your brand and your products. FBA pros. There's a lot of different advantages to doing FBA, Fulfilled by Amazon. For instance, one of them is you get that Prime badge, and I actually have a video that you can watch here where I kind of dig into more about the advantages of the Prime badge. There's also the just obvious fact that the fulfillment is done for you by Amazon, so you don't have to worry about it. This is not something that you have to worry with your operations handling or finding a provider. Amazon will just do this for you. You can also expect to actually have higher conversions when you do Fulfilled by Amazon because those millions of Prime shoppers, they're used to getting that 1 to 2 day shipping, getting it really, really fast. And typically this is where FBA can fulfill on that promise. You're also going to be able to get a larger global reach. I actually did a recent video on the NARF program. Make sure to check this out here if you want to learn more about that remote fulfillment program, and you can only have and take advantage of that if you are using Amazon's warehouse for the US. Also, you have multi-channel fulfillment options. Did you know that if you are selling on your website, let's say you sell on Shopify, you can actually use Amazon to ship product for you without even having to use any other third-party logistics provider. You're also going to have a more streamlined returns because the return process is done for you by Amazon as part of FBA. You're going to also get the option for virtual bundles. I have done a whole video, you can watch it here. I love virtual bundles, and you can actually only take advantage of this if you are using Amazon's fulfillment, where they will bundle products of yours together for you, which is awesome. Now let's talk about FBA cons because there are disadvantages and downsides to using FBA. The first thing that really comes to mind for a lot of brands is going to be the fees. So you do have fulfillment fees that you're going to have to pay when you're using FBA instead of your own provider. Especially think about your FBA fees as it relates to your slower sellers. This can get more costly if you have a lot of product just sitting there. Think about also another disadvantage is the long-term storage fees. So if you have a product that's not moving as quickly, you're most likely going to be paying more in storage fees for those products to have them at Amazon's warehouse. Also, you're going to need to manage inventory. So you're shipping product into Amazon, but you have to keep an eye on that. The last thing you want to do is actually miss out on more sales when you're starting to get really good momentum on one of your listings and one of your products. You don't want all of a sudden to run out because that does hurt where you show up in searches, your organic ranking on Amazon. And so by running out of stock, that is a disadvantage. You have to make sure to stay in stock. You have to monitor that closely. You also do have less control. So think about if you've ever ordered something from Amazon, maybe you've gotten a package that has been a little bit beat up, or it's a little rough, or they put it in an envelope even though it would probably make sense to go in a box. This is the kind of stuff you can't control as a brand because Amazon is the one that's fulfilling it, so they're choosing what they're putting it in to then ship to customers. So it could arrive to them damaged. The good thing is if you ever do get negative seller feedback because of that, that's something that can get removed if it's something that Amazon fulfilled. I have an older video on that, but make sure to watch that here if you want to learn how to get those negative seller feedbacks removed. Also, competition. So this is a con because just in general, when you're on Amazon's platform, you have a lot of competitors to go against. And that's just something that in general, I think, for no matter what your shipping method is, it's going to be a competitive landscape, especially depending on your niche. Also, you've got long-term storage fees. I already kind of mentioned that. And there's also restricted products. So you can't actually send everything in, especially if you think of like if you have a larger product, but also if you have a product that's considered hazardous material, which actually needs special shipping and it needs to actually go to a different warehouse as well. And Amazon has like a hazmat program, but what we found recently has been that the wait list is a lot longer than it used to be from even a few years ago. So if you're not automatically approved for your product and your product is hazmat, then you may not even be able to send it in FBA. So just keep in mind that is a disadvantage and a con, that you just can't send everything in FBA as well. Another product type that you can't send in FBA could be meltable. So think about those warmer months when Amazon, think about it, they don't have actually temperature controlled warehouses. So that means when they're shipping things in, if your product is meltable and you're sending it in the middle of the summer, and if you're anything like, I mean, I'm in Georgia, which it gets very hot, very humid in the summertime, things can arrive melted to customers. That leaves a negative experience, negative product reviews. What Amazon typically does is they'll just not allow you to ship in certain products that they deem as meltable. So when you're filling out your creating your new listing, or maybe you have your existing listing, there is a place that really asks about if it's meltable. But essentially, if it is deemed as meltable, you may not be able to send it in certain months anyways. So you just will be out on those specific months when it's warmer. So now let's talk about the pros for FBM, Fulfilled by Merchant. Fulfilled by Merchant, you really do have more control over your costs. Kind of different from the con. Think about it, you are able to really work on tweaking and minimizing your costs as much as possible, where you don't have as much control over your FBA fulfillment costs. And there's also more control over your inventory. So you actually have possession of your inventory at your own warehouse or at a third-party provider's warehouse, where you actually know what every time is getting sent out to customers. There's also flexibility that you have with FBM. So this is something that, especially during busier months, this may be something that is hugely helpful to you, because maybe you've run out, for instance, of FBA and you need to fulfill it by merchant. It's nice to have that as an option, and it does give you more flexibility, and especially, like I said, in peak seasons. Also, no fulfillment fees. You are still obviously paying Amazon fees for selling on their platform, like the referral fee, things like that, but you're not going to have those FBA fees. Also, you could potentially have faster processing times. Now, this will depend on your own warehouse or your provider of how fast they can get things out. And if you really can't get things out very quickly, then you will see definitely a drop in your conversion rates and things like that. But if you can send it in faster, this can really be helpful for you when you're trying to sell your products on Amazon. Also, less restrictions on your products. So you don't have to worry as much about the expiration date if that's what you have on your product. Whereas with FBA, you can't even send some things in within, like, I think it's 4 months that they give you. It's not even like, they won't even take it at that point. They'll say it's expired even though it still has 4 months. So that's something to keep in mind, that you don't have that restrictions like you do with your FBA when you're sending things in that way. You also get more control over customer service. This can be a good thing, this can be a bad thing. Depends on how in tune you are with your customer service. If you are on the ball with your customer service and it's top notch and you are very, very responsive and you handle things very quickly, this may be a pro for you if you already do have stellar customer service. Also, you don't have to worry about those long-term storage fees. Like I mentioned previously, that you do pay long-term storage fees. And not only that, I didn't mention this, but for FBA, there's certain months like Q4 where you're actually paying more in storage fees because it's a high demand time for Amazon. So it's almost like you're paying more of a premium for having space at their warehouse than you are other months. So that's something as well that you have to keep in mind. Now let's talk about the cons of FBM. So there are cons to it. Some of the advantages are also more like disadvantages. So you do have to handle all the shipping, which that actually can be a con, especially if you're looking to try to grow and scale pretty quickly. And Amazon already has the infrastructure set in place to do a lot of that for you. So if you don't have the right systems in place, or your provider doesn't, and they're not on their A game for shipping, this could be actually a huge con, and that can actually hurt your account. If you look inside of your account health, you're always rated. If you're using FBM, you're going to be rated on how many times, like your percentage of valid tracking rates and late shipments, things like that. So you really have to stay on top of everything if you're using this. Another con is you're going to have higher expectations from customers for the shipping and delivery. So you have to keep in mind, just because they order FBM, they might not realize that's what they're doing. Then all of a sudden, if there's a delay in shipping and it's taking them longer, it could actually give them a negative experience with your brand and with your product if they're not getting it as quickly as they had anticipated, because they're used to that fast 1-2 day shipping with FBA. Also, you're going to have most likely less visibility and lower conversions. I think this is one of the big downsides to using FBM, is because typically what Amazon will show in organic searches, meaning without paid search, when customers type in a search term, is they're going to show customers first what is going to arrive to the customer the fastest. And what we've seen happen is when you run out of stock FBA, the FBM offer, even though it converts typically very well, it can lose that organic ranking spot because the offer is no longer there of FBA. And then Amazon just kind of starts pushing that and doesn't show that as quickly to customers and as high up on the search results. And this can really hurt the traffic to your listings. And then, like I said, the conversions, because when they realize, oh, this is going to take a little bit more time to get to me, and they want it fast, because that's why they've come to Amazon, is for the convenience, for the speed, then they may end up not converting and buying. Also, potentially higher shipping costs. Amazon does have very favorable and aggressive shipping fees. So even though you do pay those fees, they're pretty nice. They're pretty attractive to people. And it's really hard, unless you're doing a ton of volume, to get the fees as low as Amazon can offer it, because they've really built out their, fees, and to make shipping not only fast, but also very affordable. Also, inventory management is a con. So just like with FBA, you are still going to have to manage your inventory. So you're going to have to pay attention, and sometimes you might have a software that's connected that pulls the data to pull out the orders, and then it counts that number down. So if you had 100 units and you sell 5, it'll keep tracking it for you. But what you do have to pay attention to is you don't want it to go to a low number and sell out, and all of a sudden it's at 0 and it's not even available all of a sudden. So you do have to make sure you're paying attention to those. And if you have inventory available to ship FBM, make sure that it's reflected inside Seller Central as well. Also, another con is just you're going to have less bandwidth in other areas of your company. So if this is something that you don't want to build out at this time because you're looking to scale quickly, then you may not want to have this as a priority. You may want to really lean on and rely on Amazon's fast, FBA shipping and everything that they have really honed in on, and just go with that for now until you work on other areas, and then maybe in the future you could consider this. Also, handling returns. So if it's not going back to Amazon's warehouse because it's not FBA, it's going back to you or your provider. So they're going to have to be managing the returns. So you're just going to have to keep that in mind. Once again, that's more time that's going to cost your team or a provider of yours, that they're going to have to be looking at your product, figuring out if it's even sellable still or if it's not. So that's something that you're going to have to handle. You also are going to have, like I said, less scalability and less automation. This is just in general, I would say, for FBM, and something to keep in mind. So let me talk about when it's best to use FBA. I think the best times to use FBA for your brand are if you're doing high sales volume on Amazon and you really want to scale more quickly, you have available storage at Amazon, and you just want that less operational overload. I think FBA is a very good, attractive choice, and probably what you really want to do. You want that competitive advantage. You want to increase those conversion rates. The FBA is really the way to go. This is typically what we do request clients and really encourage clients to do, if at all possible. Now, some products that just cannot be FBA, that's understandable, but if you can, this really is going to help you get momentum on your sales. Also, you're going to see a better return typically on ad spend. And we've just seen all the different data. We've looked at the differences. We had one client that previously had only done FBM, and when they switched over to FBA for all of their products, they were able to increase their sales by 40%. that was a huge jump in sales for them that they wouldn't have had if they only had been using FBM and had continued using that only. FBA is also great for you if you are trying to be efficient, you're trying to scale, you're also trying to leverage Amazon's infrastructure for their shipping, and that is really when you're going to want to leverage FBA. I'm going to share with you when it's actually best to use FBM because, like I said, no two brands are alike. Your products are different than other brands, and you really need to make and have an informed decision of what's best for your brand, and not only your products, because there may be different products that use different fulfillment methods. You're able to do that. You can actually choose which products you send in FBA and which ones you keep FBM. If you use both, if you only use FBA, if you only use FBM, you can actually customize this for what works best for your brand and each product as well, which is really awesome. So when is it best to use FBM? Out of necessity is one reason. If there is not an option for you to send it in FBA, then you're just going to have to fulfill it yourself and have your warehouse fulfill it. There's also products that might be super low margins, and that might make sense for you to use FBM as well. Also, if you're highly seasonal with your products, this could be something where you may want to use FBM, or like I mentioned earlier, it could be a backup during your busy season, especially maybe if busy season for you is Q4 and you run out of your FBA offer. You want to always have an offer available. Even though it won't convert typically as well, you do still want it available because otherwise those are just missed sales. So I think busy seasons for your products can really be leveraged by using FBM, and that's going to be great as well, so that you're just not missing out completely on sales. Also, if you want more control over your branding, over your packaging, on what customers see when they get your product, that is something to keep in mind too. Just know though that when people buy on Amazon, they're typically expecting Amazon packaging. I don't think it really necessarily deters from it, but you do have to make that decision yourself. And also, if you have a great in-house fulfillment or a logistics provider that is just on the ball, they are shipping things out quickly, their turnaround time is fast, things get delivered fast to customers as well, then that could be a reason that you choose FBM for some of your products or more of your products, things like that. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up by sharing what is my recommendation for you. Now, like I said earlier, this isn't a one size fits all for all brands and all products. This is something that you have to look at really also on the per product level for your brand on Amazon. But as a general rule, I would say FBA is definitely the way to go, and only use FBM when it's needed. For instance, maybe a busier season like I was mentioning. I think that from all the data we've seen over the last 8 years, FBA offers just outperform, convert so much better, provide such a better experience even with reviews as well. So because they're not dealing with things, and or if they do leave a negative review and it's not product related, you can get that removed if it's about shipping only. So I think that really for most brands, FBA is going to be the best option, only using FBM when you need to and strategically at certain times. Now that you know which option is best for you and for your business, make sure to watch this next video here where I share the costs on Amazon sponsored ads.